Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Good morning. This is the Mic Drop Show where we talk about real estate, real freedom, and real results. And I'm your host, Mike Morawski, the multifamily bounce back coach, investor, educator, and favorite partner in cash flow when it comes to building wealth in real estate. Hey, I have to tell you this morning, I am super excited. I have my good friend, John Kasman, that I'm sitting down with this morning. He's a real estate entrepreneur who's partnered with busy professionals to invest in over $100 million worth of apartments. So, hey, if you are somebody who is looking for some insights, you're going to want to grab a journal, a notepad, and take some notes this morning. If you're driving, pull over. It's going to be worth it for the next few minutes. Listen, John and I met a few years ago, and we've had a number of conversations. We've met at events. We've been on each other's podcasts previously. And, his insights are going to be huge this morning. Listen, John's the host of the Multifamily Insights podcast, co-creator of Midwest Real Estate Networking Summit, and the marketing pro who once ran campaigns for General Motors, Nike, and Coors Light. So look, if you're somebody looking to dodge out of your W-2 job, this is a place you want to be this morning, and listen how John did it, or John has done it. He's got some great insights for you. So we're going to be talking about you still sitting on the sidelines, thinking about coming off the sidelines. If you've got income that you're looking to place somewhere, we're going to talk about that. As always, remember, please hit the follow button and the subscribe button. Drop your biggest questions and comments in the DMs. Email me throughout the week. Your questions might be one of the next ones we ask on the Mic Drop Show. Let me bring John in real quick. Good morning, buddy. How you doing?
Hey, Mike, great to be here, man. I'm doing well this morning. Got my workout in, fired up and excited to go. So excited to be here, man.
Man, that's awesome. Hey, let me ask you this. So you are in Cleveland, right? Or Cincinnati?
Cincinnati, from Cleveland, but live in Cincinnati now.
Okay. And so you're on Eastern time, would that be right?
That's right. That's
so
right.
It is 10:30 by you, 7:30 by me. What time do you get up in the morning?
It depends. Summertime, I don't have to rush and try to get the kids up, man. So I've taken it a little easy. So now I wake up around 5:45 or 6. And typically, though, throughout the school, I'm up at 5 a.m. And I'm not a morning person, to be clear. This is not me, doing that. This was a reverse engineer thing because I realized I wasn't able to get the workout in. You talk to a bunch of professional people, a lot of successful people, and most of them will tell you part of morning routine is what helps drive and fuel that success. And many start with a workout in the morning. And I found that it was really, really hard to get that in. And the answer is kind of obvious. We don't like the answer, but the answer was wake your ass up earlier. So once I started doing that, it became a little bit easier to be consistent.
Yeah, isn't that true? Get up earlier. Hey, I'll tell you a little. So I am an early guy. I'm a 4:00 guy, and every day, 4:00. And the health club opens at 5, and I've been a little stressed lately. Feeling like I'm just missing a beat right in the morning, because when I get up in the morning, I like to have that power hour, right, where we sit down and maybe do a little prayer, meditation, have a cup of coffee, get ready in the morning, pull myself together, get to the health club. I've started to get up 15 minutes earlier. So I'm getting up at 3:45, and that 15 minutes has made a huge difference in my life. And it's only 15 minutes, and I just think people should, work their schedule in their life how they want to. I think it's great. You get up 5:30, 6:00, but I like that quiet time in the morning.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's on in the day, and the clarity you can get early in the day. Some people will do it the night before, but again, if you can start your day off right, I think this sets you up to have more success.
Yeah, absolutely. So John, tell people a little bit about you, who you are. How did you get out of the corporate world? You had some big jobs in the corporate world, and how'd you leave that to get in the multifamily space?
Well, the first thing I'll say is I was not necessarily looking to get out. I enjoyed what I was doing, and many of your listeners may like what they're doing too, right? But the reality is when you're working for other companies, you are a pawn in a much larger game. You're a cog in the wheel, and that's just what it is. And I started my career early on working in Detroit, working in the automotive industry, and I was there during the last economic downturn. And for your listeners that were, when the CEOs of the big three companies went down to Washington, D.C., I was working at General Motors at that time. And I watched our CEO go there and get ripped to shreds. And from that day, I started to realize, ooh, this may not end exactly how I thought this was going to end when I started. And sure enough, the company ended up going into bankruptcy. And I remember there was a day where there was massive layoffs. And we knew it was coming. It had been in the press. We knew it was, and they're naming names. They had gone through and figured out who they were going to lay off. And I went to the office, and I remember my phone had lit up with the voicemail. I was told I was safe and not to worry about it, but nonetheless, I was still pretty frightful. And I remember hesitating, and my heart kind of started pumping really fast. And I said, "Calm down. They told you you're fine. Just check the message." Pick up my phone, check the message. It's actually the guy who sits right in front of me, and he was early in the day. He did not expect it. He had been with the firm for 22 years. He was what we call a lifer. He had some medical issues, so he didn't know how he was going to take care of that. And he expressed all of his frustration, right, in his voice. He sent it to the entire floor. It wasn't just to me, it was to the entire floor. And I remember just thinking how much pain he must have been feeling in that moment to do that. But two, I had a great sense of empathy for him, but I also never wanted to be in that position where I woke up and one day somebody told me I just wasn't their guy anymore. And I had to figure out how I was going to take care of my life, family, and all those things. So that was when he was planning for me about real estate. Fast forward a little bit, Chicago, bought a 2-unit building, bought a 3-unit building, investing in properties. And sure enough, I'm working at an agency. One day, I get a phone call from my partner out in New York, and he's like, "Hey, what's going on there?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Well, just letting you know, the bank came in and they're seizing assets. They're taking computers, they're taking printers, and they're telling us that these are now theirs." And I have no idea what's going on. I call the CEO. He's distraught. "What? Huh? Let me call you back." He calls me back about 20 minutes later, and he tries to get me, keep everybody calm. I'm like, "You got to get me calm." And at that moment, I just remember, that man, I did all this investing to insulate myself from this experience. Yet here I am right back where I didn't want to be. And I
Mhm.
built up a small portfolio, but it wasn't enough to provide the cash flow that I needed. And that's when I realized I really needed to change my strategy.
So I love what you said. So, there's a lot of people out there. Yeah, and I think we have some listeners this morning that have small portfolios, whether it's small residential or small multifamily, a few hundred units, and it's not producing that cash flow that they would like to have. How did you scale to that next level then to get you, to where you were comfortable with the cash flow?
Well, that's a great question, right? So the first thing is, and I would tell anybody who is serious about real estate investing and building up a portfolio, surround yourself with people who are playing the game at a higher level.
Mm.
Step one, listening to podcasts like this, getting on live streams, attending live events, meetups, conferences. That's a great step to just surround yourself and put yourself in the environment so that you can be around people who are doing it at that level. So that was one of the things I did. I would attend a meetup in Chicago, ran my good friend Bree Schmidt, and Bree would host this meetup every month. I would go every month because I was serious about investing. And she and I got to know each other pretty well. She was there every month as a host. I was showing up every month, and most other people didn't. Most people come, once every other month or once every 3 months, or they'll come consistently for 6 months and then disappear. And I was there every month. So I got a chance to really build a relationship. And I remember watching her build her portfolio. She went from 3 units when I first met her to 9 units. And the next time I asked her about her portfolio, it was up to 90 units. And I was
Mm.
like, wait a minute. You had 9 the last time I talked to you. How you go from 9 to 90? And I remember just like having that fluster me for like days. And finally I emailed her and I said, hey, I would love to hear how you grew your portfolio. Like, can I buy you breakfast? And she said, sure. So we went to breakfast. And leading up to this, I fully expected her to tell me she had a rich uncle or grandfather, somebody who passed and gave her this huge inheritance, right? Because that was the only logical thing I could come up with in my head. And we sat down and I asked her directly, I said, hey, you said you went from 9 to 90 units. How'd you do it? And she said, well, I've been pretty active on Bigger Pockets. And for months, there have been a few people who've reached out to me about partnering. And initially I said no. And finally, I decided to partner with the group. And they put up all the money. I found the properties and we have a JV partnership. And I was like, wow. And that was the first time someone that I knew was raising money for real estate deals. Now, up until that point, I had heard of it in theory, read about it in books. I've listened to it on podcasts, right? Some videos, but it didn't seem real to me, because I didn't know anybody who was doing it. And when I looked at it from my own lens, I said, well, I don't even know if I know what I'm doing well enough to put myself out there to even offer the opportunity one to invest with me. Then I said, it just doesn't feel like it's something for me. Maybe it's right for them, but not for me, right? Not for a guy like myself. And then I said, okay, well, even if I did want to do it, I don't have rich friends. I don't know people who've got millions of dollars to invest in my real estate deals. And then last, I said, well, even if I had rich friends, I would be frightful of losing someone else's money. And these were the things that were holding me back, right? I knew the key to growing my portfolio was I couldn't rely on how much money I had saved. We were saving up money as much as we could. Once we had enough for a down payment, we would buy a property. But that was a slow grind. And the truth of the matter is, when I went through that second bankruptcy situation with my employer, I realized I just had to find a different path. That was right in my face the whole time. It was working with other investors, raising capital, and partnering up on real estate deals. And it took a minute to get over that fear. But one of the things that really out right around that same time, I met the man who became my mentor. And if you can find people who can guide you along your journey, it makes it so much easier.
Yeah. So, I think there's a difference between a mentor and a coach, right?
Absolutely.
A mentor might be somebody that you get up next to and you work with, and there might not be any investment, financial investment. But in coaching, I think you have somebody who gives you a little bit more push, a little more accountability, a little bit more a commitment, because there might be an investment with them, a financial investment with them. What are your thoughts on both sides of that? Mentorship, coaching, any opinions?
I agree wholeheartedly, and I'll take it a step further, right? So a mentor can teach you how to do what they've done, right? That's what mentors do. If I've built a certain business, I'll show you how to build the same kind of business, right? I'll show you what I do. A coach, though, coach can do the same thing as a mentor, but a coach can go a little bit further, because a coach can look at you, your unique skill set, and help you optimize your skills. I think of it, if you go to sports, right? Think about a guy like Michael Jordan when he was, in the front office versus, say, a Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson was a former NBA player. A lot of folks don't know that. Phil Jackson's not necessarily a great, well-known NBA player, but he's still good enough to make it to the NBA. But he's a Hall of Fame coach. Why? Because you can look at a guy like Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Dennis Rodman, identify their unique skill set, their gifts, and maximize that talent. He didn't coach them like they were the same. One of the reasons Jordan, as an executive, is because he expected those guys to do what he did.
Right.
Wake up, go to the gym, go harder. Why are you not practicing 20 times a day? Like whatever. He expected them to be wired how he was wired. And that's part of the struggle, is he couldn't identify how to coach this guy and how to maximize his skill set. Some guys, you got to put an arm around them and hug them. Some guys, you got to yell at them and cuss them out, right? You got to triggers each individual to maximize their ability. And that's the difference between coaching and mentoring, right? A mentor show you how to do what they've done. It's up to you to follow a path. A coach will actually take the time to try to help you understand your unique skill sets, your gifts, how to maximize the opportunities in front of you.
You had to get me on basketball, didn't you, John? Now we have to talk about the difference between Dennis Rodman and Michael Jordan and how Phil was able to, maneuver both of those guys, Hey,
Yeah.
listen, while we're on that subject though, I read a book last year by Tim Grover. Tim Grover
Yeah. Yeah.
was, the personal coach
Yep.
for Jordan and LeBron James and Kobe. And, it was called Winning. And, from a coach's perspective, and I coach people, you coach people, from a coach's perspective, that book just kicked my butt because of the way that he talked about handling your own inner self, right? Because I think a good coach can teach you what to do, but they help you handle your own inner self and the mindset piece. And I think that's why a lot of people, like you said, people go to the meetup, right? And they'd be there one or two times, or they'd come every month or every other month, or they'd come 6 times and you'd never see them again. It's if you're going to make a commitment, right? And I think it's the same thing with coaching. When people want it, but they don't want to pay for it. They don't want to make an investment. And, so it's interesting. It's interesting to work with different people at different levels.
Can we? So, I have not read Winning, but I read Tim Grover's other book. I forget it off the top of my head, but where he talks about the cleaners, right? And
Right.
great.
That's it.
Yeah, so it's a great book, and I'll definitely check out Winning as well. One of the things that I've found is, and part of this, like you said, it's inner work, understanding yourself, but then also when you're coaching other people, it's understanding their triggers, what's their why, And I know for me, there were a couple of things, and when I had an opportunity to work directly with a coach, certainly we had to have some conversations. But one of the things that made it easier for me and my wife to say yes is we were really clear on the kind of life we wanted to create. We used to write down our goals when we were starting off, even as a couple. I mean, we would write down what we were making as salary, how much can we save for trips. We were budgeting. We kind of mapped out our future together. And we recognized that we were going to alternative investments to help us achieve those goals and that success. So we knew real estate was one of the things that would help us. And we also got to the point where we had taken enough action to realize, okay, what we're doing is working, but we need to amplify this and optimize it. And one of the challenges I think a lot of people face is they're not taking enough action to actually recognize opportunities and to correct. When I hired my coach, I had already built up a $1.5 million portfolio. I had 13 units under my belt. So for some people, you may hear those numbers and say, oh, you don't need a coach. You got it. No, I didn't have what I wanted, right? What I wanted was financial freedom. I wanted enough cash flow to replace my W-2 job. And I wanted the flexibility to not have to worry about money. And I was not there, right? I was on the right path. And the path I was on was saving pretty much one of our salaries each year so we could go buy property. And that would have taken me probably another 7 or 8 years to get to the point where we could stack and say, okay, hey, we've got enough now to, walk away from the W-2 or to, have a little bit more flexibility. But even that built the long term that we were really striving for. And hiring that coach really allowed us to see that. But even hiring the coach stemmed from my company going into bankruptcy, because that's when I had to look at him like, yo, this path is too slow. And this is the reason it's too slow. And I just had my second child. Or I think we were just found out we were pregnant with our second child. So like light punching me to say, you better do something now. That was the motivation I needed. So when that opportunity came forward, I was ready to take action. Let me tell you one other little thing. That same summer, my wife and I considered one of those, really big, like TV guru type investments. They came on, did the seminar, they did the free seminar, right? Then you come to the 3-day for $197 or $297, whatever it was. They try to upsell you to $30 or $40,000 program, right? So we were sitting there and we sat there the first night and we went to dinner and we looked at each other and said, hey, should we make this investment? And you have to have hard conversations like that. You've got to be willing to invest in your future and invest in your education. And the reason I say this is you would not hesitate to go get a degree, right? Or to go and make an investment from that standpoint. And that doesn't even guarantee a job. right? That doesn't guarantee you a promotion or anything like that, but it's putting you in a better position. If you have the chance to learn how to be better and better, to identify deals and opportunities, to learn how to structure it, to raise capital for these deals, to essentially remove every obstacle that can hold you back from being a successful real estate investor, would you invest in that? And then what is that investment worth to you? If you could make twice as, a 2x return, a 5x return, 10x return, why does it matter what it costs? And most people don't think like that unless you take enough action to recognize that this is not just theory. This is not just a mood on a podcast talking. This is life. And this is quite frankly how most of the people you hear, this is how most of them have accomplished it. If you don't come from money or have a neighbor or a best friend who's upper and you just have access to that kind of world, if you're like the rest of us, you grind it out enough to roll up your sleeves, recognize opportunity, and make that investment.
Yep. 100%. Hey, I want to say this again because I loved what you said. And I think that it's worth repeating. And you said, get clear on the life you want to create. And I think once people get to that point, and you're really clear and crystal clear on that life you want to create, it doesn't matter what happens along the way because you have this vision of where you want to go. And it's in the clarity that keeps you in the game. The other thing is you were talking about being in bigger rooms, hanging around with people that are doing more, listening to podcasts. On that note, we got the summit coming up here again in October, the 2-day virtual multifamily summit. You're going to be a speaker again this year. I love that when you come, you bring some fire and some energy. Tell people a little bit about what you'll be talking about at the summit this year, which is in October. And I can't remember if you're speaking on the first day, the second day, but it's October 16th and 17th.
Yeah, man. So the summit's great, and I love speaking in front of a live crowd for a couple of reasons. One, I just think it's important for people to have a chance to interact. We host our podcast, Multifamily Insights, which you talked about. It's a great platform. We don't get to hear and have that live interaction with our listeners. So it's great to be able to do it in a live stage like this and be able to talk to folks. And we're going to get into, some tips and details of what you need to do to be a successful investor. And we're going to draw that. So we expect people to come out and learn. And we really want to make it a fun, interactive experience. I think the biggest thing, though, is making sure you take advantage of an opportunity. It's very to sign up for something and kind of get busy and I'll check this out when I get a moment. Listen, block your calendar, clear your
Yeah.
schedule, invest your time, lock in, focus, and be intentional with what you want to get out of the experience. We didn't get into this, but part of what really allowed me to catapult what I was doing, especially even like my friendships, conferences. When I started going to conferences, that really changed the game for me because the people you meet at conferences are people who have invested their time, their money. They've traveled typically to go to an event. This is obviously virtual, but when you're around people who have made that kind of sacrifice or that kind of commitment, that's what they are. They're committed. They are really locked in on trying to grow and scale as an investor. And that is the difference. And when you get that kind of energy, that's going to allow you to propel yourself. And again, getting in those rooms, surround yourself with folks playing the game at a higher level, it allows the the curtain to be pulled back some and for the true answers to be revealed. And whether you want to coach or not, that's a personal decision. But you can learn what it truly takes to be successful when you're able to connect and talk to these individuals directly. So I would highly encourage everybody to attend the event, the virtual conference. It's very affordable for folks. Make that investment, invest the time though. Don't just buy the ticket. Make sure you actually invest the time and be intentional with what information you want to get out of the event and find the who, right? Yes, we want to learn how to invest and how to do this and how to do that, but find the person or the people who can help you along your journey, whether that's a mentor or a coach or a friend or a partner. Come into the event focused with the intention of finding the people that can help you elevate and get to the next level. That are the best things I think you can do to elevate and optimize your experience.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks for that. I appreciate it. And, yeah, this, in October, this is the 6th year. virtual multifamily summit, 20 great speakers like yourself, and teaching people, just pouring into people, right? Given the gift of what they have and what they know, that gift of knowledge. But we're going to talk about everything from mindset to how to get started in the business, how to leave corporate America, and how to scale. Man, I have a panel this year. And I have to say, John, that the panel has probably done $5 billion in multifamily transactions in the last decade. And it's going to be a huge group of men and women that are going to just give that gift and pour into people. So people need to be there. But hey, we're bumping up against time. I appreciate you. Let's do this. One tip that you would give somebody who's in the multifamily business looking to raise capital on a deal today.
One tip raising capital today, communicate, right? It's not as easy as it was a few years ago. And I'm a believer that it's never easy. I don't like to put labels like easy and hard and those kind of things on anything. Either you have the knowledge and the experience to know how to do it effectively, or you're new and you're still figuring it out. So it's not easy or hard. But I will say that even with the knowledge and experience, the results aren't as simple to come by today as they were before. So plan on talking to more people, plan on being clearer and tighter with understanding the market dynamic, educate yourself, be honest, be transparent. And if you can do that, that should help you. And if you're brand new to the space, align yourself with someone that has the experience. This is not the time to go out there and wing it and try to figure it out by yourself. Align yourself with someone who has experience, leverage their expertise, and be a great partner.
Thank you. I appreciate your time this morning. You're an awesome friend, an awesome mentor. I love being able to spend time with you, and we don't do it enough. So we need to make a little bit more commitment, I think. But
well, we both moved out of Chicago, so it's way harder now.
Yeah, I know. But you know what? Listen, there's a little bit of paradise, 70 degrees and sunny most days, 365 days a year. So you can't, I got tired of shoveling or sharpening my snow shovel. So, hey, John, tell people how they get a hold of you.
Yeah, listen, I got my show, Multifamily Insights. Check me out there. But I also have a free gift. If you are interested in investing and want a little bit of help, I have a free guide. It is 7 questions you must ask before investing in apartments. You can check that out at casmancapital.com/7 questions.
Listen, let's circle back, you and I, in the next week or so. I have a couple things I'd love to chat with you about, a couple updates in my life that I'd like to share with you, and exciting things going on. So let's make a point of doing that. I'm going to let you go. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. And John, have a great week. We'll catch up soon.
Absolutely, Mike. Thanks for having me.
You bet. All right, everybody. That was this week's Mic Drop Show. So glad that you were here. So glad that you had an opportunity to listen in to John and I this morning, but that's a wrap. Remember, John Kasman, he's an investor, educator, and master of turning corporate success into real estate freedom. If you've ever thought that I should invest in my backyard or out of state, you know what? John's got some insights around that. Should I try to do it all myself or raise capital with partners? John's got some insights for that. Reach out to him if you have questions. Remember, you'll be able to hear more from John this October at the 6th annual Multifamily Summit. This virtual event is October 16th and 17th. Tickets are on sale now. If you're looking to get started, to scale your business, to build a brand, this is a place that you're going to want to be. This is for serious players to go from stuck to scaling. And we've got some seats and tickets are on sale now waiting for you. So don't miss this event. Remember, smash the like button, subscribe to this. We're here every Wednesday morning. We have a great guest every week. If you have questions or anything you need, don't hesitate to DM me throughout the week, and we'll get those questions answered for you. They might be a question on the next Mic Drop Show. Have a great week, everybody, and we will see you soon.